What if the Great Pirate Era was never really about finding One Piece? There's been speculation that Gold Roger witnessed something so terrifying at God Valley that he spent his final years constructing an elaborate plan to protect the entire world from what he saw. His final words were, "My treasure, I left it all in one place, go find it." This command inspired countless people to chase after Goldie Roger's treasure, thus leaving their homes and being unable to be affected by IMU's most devastating ability, Domi Reversi, the power to flip anyone into a demonic slave. This was named after a Victorian board game where you convert your opponent's pieces to your side. This power was first revealed in chapter 1150. Once you understand the rules and you see the pattern that connects every single victim of Domi Reversi, you'll realize something that reframes all of One Piece. Every confirmed victim was transformed in their homeland. Giants on Elbaf, Davy Clan on God Valley, their Latin name Domi Reversi literally translates to "they returned home." Roger was at God Valley as he witnessed Xebec get converted into a demon and forced to murder his own wife and child. He heard Rox begging to be killed through the voice of all things, as tears were streaming down his face as his true self screamed for release. Some have speculated that Roger did something that nobody has understood for years. He started an era that sent the strongest people in the world scattering across the seas, permanently away from their homelands and permanently beyond IMU's reach. Luffy left Dawn Island on chapter 1 and he hasn't been back since. 27 years of publication, over 1,000 chapters, and Oda has never let Luffy return home. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why. Now, do you know who else hasn't returned to Dawn Island? All of those who have subscribed to the channel. Only about 10% of the people who watch these videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy this content and want to see more, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon as it really helps the channel. To appreciate Roger's actions, we need to understand what he witnessed. God Valley is one of the most important but yet brutal events within the history of One Piece. 38 years ago, the world nobles hosted what they called a native hunting competition. Celestial dragons sailed to God Valley to hunt the local population for sport. The event doubled as a purge against the Davy clan, a bloodline that IMU had targeted for extinction. Rox D. Xebec, whose birth name was Davy D. Xebec, didn't sail there for conquest, as he came to rescue his wife Eris and his young son Marshall D. Teach, who were hidden on the island. When Rox arrived, he found his family already under attack, but what was worse than that was he found demons wearing familiar faces. His own father, grandmother, and multiple relatives from the Davy clan. They had already been converted into demons as they were attacking their own bloodline. 6 of the history's most powerful fighters launched a combined assault on IMU. Rox, Roger, Garp, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, all of them attacked at the same time. IMU survived completely unscathed as he regenerated instantly. Then IMU spotted Eris and Teach fleeing and threatened to kill them. Rox attacked in a fury as IMU manifested 2 black tendrils and impaled him directly and invoked Domi Reversi. Rox resisted through sheer willpower, but with his last 3 moments he taunted IMU, asking which legendary figure scared them more, Davy D. Jones or Joy Boy. But IMU broke through his defenses by revealing plans to subjugate Elbaf, to turn the entire giant nation into an enslaved fleet. Once Rox's emotional resistance crumbled, the transformation was complete. Demonized Rox became overwhelmingly powerful. His Conqueror's Haki created an impenetrable barrier that neither Roger or Garp could breach individually. He one-shotted Kaido and then one-shotted Big Mom. Neither of them had seen anything like this, as they genuinely believed that their captain had betrayed them. The possessed Rox ended up destroying mountains while clashing with Whitebeard, and then IMU went on to give Rox the order to kill his wife and son. Rox's body moved on its own as he was conscious inside but trapped, unable to stop himself. But thankfully, a young Bartholomew Kuma saved Eris and Teach at the very last moment, teleporting them off of the island with the Nikyu no Mi. But Rox didn't know this. From his perspective, trapped within his own body, he had just murdered his wife and child with his own hands. He had then used the voice of all things as Rox communicated telepathically with Roger and Garp. Tears streaming down his face, his true self begged them, "Help me, Roger, Garp, please, you must kill me." Both men heard him as they saw the tears, and they understood that the man inside was suffering beyond imagination. Roger used his flaming sword strikes, Garp used infinitum explosion and rapid fire punches. They combined their full Conqueror's Haki into a single devastating attack. The combined force of their attack expelled IMU's demonic energy from Rox's body entirely. Rox reverted to his original form, weakened, freed, but he was himself again. Vigilant, Garling, Summers, and Maffei approached the fallen pirate as Rox lay on the ground, barely able to move. He watched the God Knights close in, but his final thoughts weren't about his enemies, they were about Roger and Garp. He silently thanked them for stopping his rampage, as he hoped that they would escape. And then, like every other member of the Will of D, Rox D. Xebec died with a smile on his face. Roger and Garp's mercy killing didn't end Rox's suffering, it gave him back his dignity and it let him die as himself, not as IMU's puppet. One Piece fans have called this one of the most emotionally devastating deaths in the history of the manga. Rox, a member of the Davy clan, was transformed on God Valley. His father, grandmother, and relatives from the Davy clan were transformed on God Valley too. The island was their homeland, their ancestral territory. The giants who got hit in chapter 1150, Dory, Broggy, Thorman, other giant warrior pirates, all of them transformed on Elbaf, once again their homeland. Every single confirmed victim of Domi Reversi has this in common. Domi translates to home. Reversi means returned or turned back. The literal translation is they returned home, or at the home of the returned one. Oda clearly hasn't named this ability randomly, he's embedded the restriction directly into the title. Roger would have definitely understood this, as he was smart enough to find Laugh Tale to read the poneglyphs to piece together 800 years of hidden history, as he watched IMU convert an entire clan on their homeland. Watching the name of the ability get spoken aloud, Roger would have recognized what he was looking at, a weapon that only works when people are home. Now, if populations stay rooted to their homelands generation after generation, then IMU can convert entire civilizations into demonic armies. The world government wouldn't need to conquer the world through warfare, they would just need to show up wherever people live and flip them. The giants have held Elbaf for centuries, the fishmen have held Fishman Island for centuries. Every kingdom in the world has populations that stay put, that build their lives in one place and never leave. But this is what makes them vulnerable. Roger sailed to Laugh Tale after God Valley, he learned the full truth about the Void Century, about Joy Boy, the prophecy. He discovered that he was too early. The person who needed to inherit Joy Boy's will hadn't been born yet. Unfortunately, Roger only had a year to live, as he was suffering from a terminal illness. This directly led to the Great Pirate Era, some have theorized. My treasure, I left it all in one place, go find it. If you were to read this on a surface level, Roger is taunting the world with the location of the One Piece, sparking an age of piracy for his own amusement or to find a worthy successor to him. But the deeper meaning is that Roger understood something fundamental about Domi Reversi, and he constructed a countermeasure that would outlast his death by decades. It's no secret pirates don't stay home. That's the entire point of piracy. You leave your homeland, sail the seas, and you never settle. You're constantly moving from island to island, chasing after treasure and adventure, always chasing after what's over the horizon. Millions of people abandoned their homes to chase after Roger's treasure. The strongest individuals across every nation took to the seas, scattering across the world, permanently being mobile and permanently being beyond IMU's reach. The chase after the One Piece is the protection. Roger lived his life at sea. He was born on the waves and died on the scaffold, never once vulnerable to the power that he witnessed at God Valley. The world government has spent 800 years suppressing piracy, every resource dedicated to hunting down people who sail the seas. On the surface, pirates are criminals, but so are revolutionaries, and the Marines doesn't pursue them with the same obsessive intensity, unless pirates represent something more threatening than crime, unless every pirate who stays at sea is one more person IMU can never convert, unless the Great Pirate Era created an entire population that exists beyond the reach of the Empty Throne's most powerful weapon. Link this back to Luffy's journey from the very beginning. He leaves Dawn Island in chapter 1, he's 17 years old, setting out to become Pirate King. 1,177 chapters later as of this video, Luffy has not returned to Dawn Island not even once. He's been to the Grand Line, the New World, Wano, Egghead, Elbaf. For 27 years of real-world publication, Oda has had countless opportunities to send Luffy back to Fuchsia Village to reunite with Makino, to visit Dadan and the Mountain Bandits, especially during those 2 years of time skip, but he has never allowed this to happen. The same logic applies to most of the Straw Hats. Shanks also understood this, at least partially. The Shallows Covenant mark was on his left arm, the arm that the Lord of the Coast bit off while he was saving Luffy. We can't say for certain whether if Shanks did this deliberately or if it was just a fortunate coincidence. But losing that arm severed Shanks' connection to Imu's control entirely. Shanks chose piracy over his world noble birthright. He rejected his homeland and never returned to Mary Jo permanently. He spent his life at sea, mobile and unreachable, and he gave Luffy the push to do the same thing. This brings us to the real-world board game called Reversi. Understanding the mechanics of this game map directly onto everything that we've witnessed within One Piece. Reversi uses 64 identical discs on a 8x8 grid. Each disc has two sides, light and dark. The core mechanic is flanking. You place your piece so that your opponent's pieces get trapped in a straight line between yours and another piece that you already control. Every trapped piece flips to your color. So what were once your pieces are now fighting for the opposite team. This is literally what IMU does. Victims sink into the abyss portal, get physically inverted, and they emerge as demonic versions of themselves. Chain reactions work the same way. In Reversi, a single well-placed move can flip dozens of pieces simultaneously across multiple lines. On Elbaf, once Broggy got converted, anyone standing between two demons in a straight line also got transformed immediately. Thorman and at least 3 unnamed giant warrior pirates got caught in the cascade. IMU didn't have to do anything here. The chain reaction triggered on its own. Anyone caught between two transformed individuals transforms without IMU's direct involvement, exactly like the board game. Corner pieces in Reversi are permanently immune to flipping. Once you claim a corner, that piece anchors your entire position and cannot be taken back. This maps to Conqueror's Haki users who are exponentially difficult to transform. Rox had monstrous willpower. He still fell, but only after IMU broke him emotionally by threatening his family. The corner can be taken, but it requires weakening the anchor first. Most critically, flipped pieces in Reversi can always be flipped back. Nothing is permanent if you know the rules. You need 2 of your pieces flanking one of your opponent's pieces, and that piece returns to your side. This is why Roger and Garp were both needed at God Valley. Fans have come up with this term, the 2-piece sandwich theory. In Reversi, you cannot flip a piece back with just one of your own, you need 2. Roger alone couldn't break through Demon Rox's barrier, Garp alone couldn't do it, but combined they created the flanking position necessary to force the demonic energy out. So 2 white pieces were required to sandwich a black piece and flip it back. This also explains something that always seemed like a cultural quirk, which is Elbaf's tradition of dual captains. Jarl and Jorl, Dory and Broggy. The Giants have maintained paired leadership for generations, but what if this isn't cultural preference? What if it's a defensive necessity that evolved over centuries of conflict with the world government? If a nation maintains paired leaders, then neither captain can be isolated and permanently flipped. You always have the second piece available for a reversal opportunity. Dory and Broggy were able to free each other precisely because both were present. A single captain would have been lost forever. Elbaf's entire social structure may be a cultural defense mechanism against Domi Reversi, developed over time without the Giants fully understanding the underlying game theory. Now, we know 3 confirmed counters to Domi Reversi. Method 1 is Fatal Damage and Resurrection. Chapter 1176 showed us Dory and Broggy slowly regaining partial control over their demon bodies. With their remaining willpower, they chose mutual decapitation. The ground beneath them flipped them in reverse. They died as demons, but rose alive as themselves, completely restored. Chapter 1177 showed Zoro, Hydrodine, Stanzen, men, Dory and Brogy, systematically cutting down the remaining demonized giants. Fatal damage triggers the reverse flip. You kill your comrades in order to save them. Method 2 is overwhelming Supreme King Haki, but it requires the two-piece sandwich, like how Roger and Gob combined in order to reverse rocks. Method 3 was shown in the latest chapter of One Piece, 1177, as we saw Chopper in his monster point slamming a Domi Reversi giant with minimal damage, no Conqueror's Haki, no fatal blow, but a demonic shadow got knocked clean out of the giant's body, as it resulted in an instant reversion back to normal. Chopper and Kashi both stood there confused, as neither understood what had happened. Chapter 1178 confirmed that this wasn't a fluke. Chopper kept hitting demonized giants and they kept reverting to normal, but nobody actually knows why the Hito Hito no Mi can cure demonic corruption. The leading theory connects this to the fundamental nature of the devil fruit itself. Oda stated in a SBS that if a human ate this fruit, they would gain more knowledge and reclaim their true humanity, ascending over average humans, becoming the epitome of what it means to be a human. That sounds useless, a human becoming more human, but what if the fruit's fundamental power is to restore and amplify humanity? What if that function naturally counters a curse that strips humanity away? Domi Reversi converts humans into demons. The human fruit restores humanity, so they are opposing forces. The Harley, Elbap's ancient religious text, describes 4 gods who shape the world. The forest god specifically is described as one who tamed demons. Devil fruits are said to be enchanted by sea devils, according to ancient legend. If IMU is the sea devil and the forest god represents the counterforce, then fruits originating from the Eve tree might carry inherent anti-demonic properties. Chopper's fruit might not counter Domi Reversi by accident, it might be designed to do so, and here's where it gets really interesting. Blackbeard raided Drum Island before the time skip. The island had no strategic value or treasure worth the effort, just snow and doctors, but Chopper was there, and by the time Blackbeard arrived, the fruit had already been eaten. Marshall D. Teach was hidden on God Valley as an infant. He was there when Imu converted rocks, and he was there when the Davy clan got exterminated. Bartholomew Kuma saved him and his mother Eris at the last moment. Teach grew up as the secret son of rocks, and he might know more about Domi Reversi than anyone alive outside of the world government. He might have specifically hunted the Hito Hito no Mi because he understood its counter properties. The raid on Drum Island failed as Chopper had already eaten the fruit, but Blackbeard's interest in Drum Island suddenly makes sense under this framework. Domi Reversi is actually the 4th and most extreme option within a broader system that IMU uses. Chapters 1167 and 1168 revealed 3 voluntary tiers of Covenant plus the forced demon transformation. The Shallows Covenant is entry level. It's given to trainees called Devoted Blades of God. The symbol is a circle with crossbones, branded somewhere on the recipient's body. This covenant grants minimal power, primarily access to travel through the Abyss portals. There's no immortality, regeneration, or remote control. Shallows Covenant holders can disobey Imu, but only when far from Merijo. Within range of the Holy Land, they must comply with direct orders. Known holders of this covenant include young Gunko during God Valley, young Shanks when he infiltrated Merijo, and King Harold initially. The Depths Covenant is given to God Knights by Imu personally. The symbol adds horn-like protrusions to the Shallows design. This covenant grants immortality, regeneration from fatal wounds, enhanced strength, abyss teleportation, and a telepathic link with Imu. The key drawback is that Imu is able to override the bearer's free will from any distance. Harold described his own thoughts physically changing against his will. He could feel his personality being rewritten to serve Imu. Known Depths Covenant holders include Knights Killingham, Summers, Maffei, and Shamrock. The Abyssal Covenant is the highest tier, reserved for the 5 Elders and Figurland Garling. It includes all Depths powers plus cessation of aging, yokai transformation, the ability to channel Imu's own Conqueror's Haki, and full telepathic connection. Imu can fully possess Abyssal Covenant holders. Saturn at God Valley. He was puppeted directly as his body acted as a vessel for Imu's consciousness, while his original personality was suppressed. IMU can revoke covenants at will. After Saturn failed to stop Luffy at Egghead, IMU withdrew the power keeping him alive, as Saturn withered away into a skeleton. Chapter 1167 established a hard cap. 13 individuals are maximum for depths and abyssal covenants combined. 5 of the elders occupy 5 slots, while 8 remain for the God Knights. When a holder dies, a slot opens. What's important to note is that this limit does not apply to Domi Reversi. There is no stated cap on simultaneous demons. The naming convention reinforces IMU's identity: shallows, depths, abyssal. The contracts are named after depths of the sea. If IMU is the sea devil, the entity responsible for devil fruits according to ancient legend, then the entire covenant system is literally measuring how deep you've sunk into the devil's ocean. Now, the timeline of Shanks' involvement with the world government runs deeper than most would realize. After God Valley, Roger found baby Shanks in a treasure chest aboard a captured ship. The Roger pirates raised him as an apprentice, but Shanks eventually returned to Merijo. He reunited with his family, the Figureland bloodline, and became a devoted Blade of God. He received the Shallows Covenant mark on his left arm. What the world government didn't realize was that Shanks was running a deep cover operation. 15 years ago, during the legendary raid on Merijo, the public story was that Fisher Tiger climbed the Red Line and freed the slaves out of pure kindness. The truth is more complicated. Tiger had been enslaved there himself. He broke out and decided to free as many slaves as possible during his escape, but he had help. Chapter 1167 reveals a hooded figure appearing during the chaos. That figure was Shanks. He struck Fisher Tiger's explosive collar, freeing him as he told Tiger the location of the armory, giving him the weapons needed to fight back. This was an inside job, but at Shanks' direction, not the government's. Days later, Harold visited the Holy Land, which was still undergoing repairs from the raid. Garling introduced Shanks to Harold. Shanks played the role of a loyal, devoted blade perfectly, but Harold sensed something off. Shanks was hiding something. This timeline matters because it was long after Shanks had founded his own crew. The scar over Shanks' eye, the one that Blackbeard gave him, was already present during this period. He had a bandage over his face when he freed Tiger. 1 year later, Harold was killed while Shanks was in Elbaf, and a year after that, Shanks stole the Gomu Gomu no Mi and met Luffy for the first time. When the Lord of the Coast, the Sea King from Fusha Village, bit off Shanks' arm while saving Luffy, it took the arm that bore the Shallows Covenant mark. Losing that arm severed his connection to IMU's range-limited control entirely. Gaban later revealed that the God Knights tried to reclaim Shanks multiple times after he rejoined the Roger pirates. They beat the Knights up and sent them home every time though. Now, there is a bit of inconsistency between God Valley and Elbaf, and fans have been debating about this continuously. On God Valley, the demons that Rox fought, his father, grandmother, and other Davy clan members, when they got killed, they stayed dead. There was no resurrection or reverting back to their original form. Like we mentioned earlier, on Elbaf, killed demons revive. So why does fatal damage reverse the curse on Elbaf but not at God Valley? A lot of theories within the community say that different tiers of Domi Reversi may exist. The God Valley conversions could have been a more permanent variant, perhaps because IMU was physically present through Saturn rather than possessing remotely through Gunko. The homeland factor might apply directly for mass conversions versus individual ones. The Davy clan was on their ancestral homeland. Maybe that created a stronger binding that couldn't be reversed through death. Time may also affect the curse's stability. We have no idea to determine how long the God Valley demons had been converted for. The Elbaf demons were converted hours before being killed. Fresh conversions might be easier to reverse. The method might also matter. IMU used the tendril impalement shortcut on rocks rather than the full pentagram ritual used on Dory and Broggy. Different invocation methods might produce different durability. None of these are confirmed as Oda hasn't explained the inconsistency, but we are all waiting patiently to learn why there is a difference. Chapter 1177 ends with IMU addressing Luffy and Loki directly. Obey me or die. Nika Nidhogg. Our battle would divide this world. IMU recognizes exactly who stands before them. The Sun God and the Dragon God Nidhogg. Two ancient rivals who, according to the Harley, fought each other centuries ago, but they now stand together against the entity that corrupted their predecessors. IMU was furious to discover that the Ryuryu no Domi model Nidhogg had been in Elbaf all along. The national treasure devil fruit that Loki ate transforms him into the largest dragon in existence. According to Jarl, the fruit's previous owner was the warrior god who once battled Nika, accompanied by Rototska, the ice squirrel who now inhabits Ragnir. If the homeland theory is correct, Luffy cannot be Domi Reversi'd on Elbaf. It is not his homeland. IMU might be able to possess knights, create demon armies from giants, burn the Owl Library, but the one thing IMU cannot do is flip Luffy himself. Chopper has also suddenly become very important to the story. If Monster Point can reverse Domi Reversi without requiring fatal damage or overwhelming haki, then the Straw Hats carry a weapon that IMU never anticipated. Chopper being able to cure multiple giants in chapter 1178 just by hitting them, this could mean that he can restore anyone who gets converted. Roger's plan may extend beyond just the Great Pirate era. What exactly is the One Piece? We don't really know, but under this framework, it might not be a physical treasure at all. It might be the final piece of Roger's protection mechanism, something that reveals the truth about Domi Reversi to whoever finds it, in addition to the truth about Joy Boy, the Void Century, which explains why Roger laughed when he reached the final island. As we're getting closer to the end of One Piece, it is becoming more and more likely that the One Piece isn't a physical treasure, but instead it is knowledge of some sort. There are some questions that still remain. With the homeland restriction, we don't know if this is an actual rule or a pattern of coincidence. What defines homeland? Is it a birthplace? Do you have a spiritual connection to it? Is it cultural identity or long-term residence? This matters because Blackbeard was born on God Valley, but the island was destroyed and erased from all maps. Does a homeland that no longer exists still count? Is Blackbeard permanently immune to Domi Reversi because his homeland is gone, or is he vulnerable somewhere else? What about characters who were adopted? Sanji was born in the Germa Kingdom, but he was raised on a ship and then at the Baratie, which counts as his homeland here. Nami was found as a baby and raised in Kokoyama village. Does her unknown birthplace matter? Then we have Chopper's ability to counter Domi Reversi. Is Monster Point specifically required, or would any form work? Chapter 1178 showed him curing giants repeatedly, but was that because of the form or something deeper about the devil fruit that he has? Can he restore anyone or only recent conversions? Could he reverse the God Knights if they've been corrupted for decades? And the Forest God connection remains unexplored. The Harley says the Forest God tamed demons. Devil fruits come from trees, possibly the Eve tree specifically. If Imu is the sea devil and the Forest God is the opposing force, then Chopper's fruit might carry mythological significance that we haven't fully understood yet. Imu's true nature is still unexplained. How do they have their powers? Is it as a result of devil fruits? Is it ancient magic, or is it something else entirely? Imu appears as a cartoon devil while possessing others, complete with bat wings, a triangular tail, and flaming eyes. The design matches classical depictions of the devil, but the underlying source of this power is mysterious. So yeah, the central premise of the video is that Roger inspired the entire world to leave their homeland. This thread connects God Valley to Log Town to Dawn Island to Elbaf. As you could say that the Great Pirate era was never about finding treasure, but instead about freedom. What do you think about what defines homeland for Domi Reversi to work? Do you buy the theory that Roger constructed all of this deliberately? Do let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.